What up, motherfuckers? It's your boy once again, the hater. You know what I'm saying? We're gonna do an NXT review. I know that I've said that I'm gonna take this channel to different directions and try to improve shit, and I will. Don't think that I forgot about that. I've just been busier than a motherfucker, you know what I'm saying? Trying to get that grind in, if you will. So let's talk about NXT right now. I will be honest, I'm not gonna sit here and pretend, because the hater only speaks truths, alright? This episode wasn't as good as previous weeks. I'm not gonna lie. And as a matter of fact, I fear, I'm not sure if this fear is merited, but I fear that this might lead to another stagnation down the line in the future, you know? But let's get started and talk about the show. You know, first of all, they had commercials about this show, and they specifically hyped it up as being all about the women. All right? So that was to be expected, I guess. I wasn't sure if that was like a generic commercial or not, but I guess they meant it because there was a lot of women's matches here, which typically I'm not okay with because like I find women's wrestling to just be shitty. But I will say for what we saw, some of it was okay. First up, we have B-Fab versus Elektra Lopez. I don't care what anyone says. The theme song of Hit Row is catchy as fuck. I can't help it. You know what I'm saying? I can't help it. It's like someone singing Hit Row even worse than I just did. It's like so out of tune. But nonetheless, it's catchy. And I like their entrance, especially when they all get to the corner and the beat drops and they start dancing. You know? It's a gimmick, motherfucks. Whereas Elektra Lopez is not a gimmick. I don't know why Elektra Lopez is in this company. I just don't get it, motherfucks. Why did they just put Raquel Gonzalez with Legado del Fantasma and call it a day? You know? Like, Raquel Gonzalez is never going to be a real star. You know, she's at most going to be Rhea Ripley. So I just put her with Legado del Fantasma. She's an established person. She's a champion. It gives them credibility. You know, but instead, they're like, here's Elektra Lopez, a short, fat girl who, like, in no way, shape, or form should be wrestling and winning, you know? I will say she had a pretty cool move. The little powerbomb thing she does. It's like, it reminds me of the Riptide, except it's, like, better looking, you know what I mean? So, this was actually not a bad match, considering that this was, like, basically, like, essentially a hardcore match, you know what I'm saying? There was, like, weapons being used. I wouldn't go as far as saying that it was, like, a good hardcore match. It was more of a no DQ match. Now, I know that no DQ and hardcore and all that shit means the same thing. You can't get disqualified. But there is a difference. There's something different to expect. Like, if you hear Extreme Rules, you expect people to be put through fire, right? If you hear no DQ, you expect people to, like, you know, maybe do a low blow in the match. And if you hear, like, hardcore, you expect a hardcore match. We all know what the fuck that is. So, B-Fab lost. I don't know what the fuck the point is. I don't think either one of them has any real future as a star. But if one of them would have to have some future, it would probably be B-Fab, not Elektra Lopez. So I would have had B-Fab go over. But that's neither here nor there. Next up, Joe Gacy cut a promo. Joe Gacy basically said that, like, you know, he's an SJW. Like, it's just what it is, you know? I mean, I like that. I enjoy it. Obviously, he's a heel. And I think it's going to be like, he thinks he's like this pacifist liberal type, but he's going to be this aggressive, like, monster who, like, you know, attacks people for no reason, basically, you know? I think it's topical, it's current, it's relevant, and it's finger on the pulse. It's way, way, way better than Keith Lee having the gimmick of the Bearcat. Oh, sorry, Keith Bearcat Lee. You know what I mean? Way better. It's actually thought out. Like, someone sat down and thought this through. And the fact that Joe Gacy is supposed to be this, like, hardcore dude from CCW makes it even better, right? It actually is a good gimmick, you know? It depends on where it goes, but thus far, I'm intrigued. After the segment, we had a match. It was Zion Quinn, who has one of the worst wrestling names in the history of the world, versus Oni Lorcan, who is one of the worst first names, I should say, in the history of wrestling. Zion Quinn, his name has an X, a Y, a Q, and a U in it. This was basically like, let's sit down and think of a name with shitty letters that shouldn't be in names. Nonetheless, here's Zion Quinn. The guy isn't horrible. Like, he's got a decent look, but his look, his appearance, his name, his gimmick don't align, right? He's like this Samoan guy, you know, and I understand. I don't want to sound like I'm being stereotypical, right? Because not every Samoan is going to be Umaga or like Rikishi, right? They could be the Usos. They could be Roman Reigns. I'm not saying that every Samoan has to be the same. But this guy comes out and does like a haka, right? Because he's Samoan. But then like his gimmick is he's like a gentleman. His name is Zion Quinn. Like there's nothing Samoan about his name. His name is basically like futuristic. You know what I'm saying? It's like some name you hear in like cyberpunk or some shit like that. So, and the worst part about Zion Quinn, the part that I hate the most, and the reason why I think this guy should be fired immediately, is because his finishing move is a running forearm. Has to be in the running for a worst finisher, right there with carrying crosses, running forearm to the back. You know, like this is atrocious. This guy should be fired immediately. He's got a decent look, he's got good size, but I don't know. We'll see. Of course, Bleacher Report here says Gacy is wasted in this weird gimmick. His mocking liberal heel just does not ring true. Yes, it does. It's perfect, motherfucks. It says there's not enough nuance to anything WWE is doing here to make a weird political comment. Instead, he was given the first gimmick some NXT writer found funny. This is a great gimmick. This is exactly the problem with wrestling. It's like everyone's a nerd in wrestling. More on that later. Everyone's a nerd. Every fan is basically a geek, and they don't understand. They really don't get the difference between a good gimmick and a bad gimmick, and a good character and a bad character. But I'll get to that at the end, motherfucks. Next up, MSK has like a little in-ring segment. Basically, this was your average like, who will MSK fight next? Let's look at all the tag teams, in the ring, and like let's see which one is gonna go over the several next few weeks, right? Now, once again, Bleacher Report just doesn't get it. They're complete idiots. Like whoever wrote this is a complete moron. Basically, what happens is we have a bunch of tag teams come out. Amongst them are Carmelo and Trick Williams, who are, of course, cool. Then we have Zach Gibson and James Drake, who have been around for a fucking eternity. They deserve a title shot because, like, I've never seen them wrestle. And then, of course, we have what I think is probably my favorite tag team out of all of these. I forget their names, but it was like JB and BJ. I forget what their name is. I don't know if they have like an actual name, like Briggs and Jensen. Briggs and Jensen, it says here. I don't know if they have like a tag team name. They're cool. I like them a lot. Here it says on Bleacher Report, Briggs and Jensen are a flat team with little that makes them stand out. What the fuck? What do the Young Bucks do that makes them stand out? What do the Good Brothers do that makes them stand out? The reason I bring this up, cucks, is because I know that if this was an AW review, like the same fucking asshole would probably write, WWE ruined their chances with Carl Anderson. Carl Anderson, like the most generic guy ever. You know, what the fuck are you talking about? This tag team is badass, and I'll tell you right now why Briggs and Jensen are different. First of all, they're this new personification of like the country bro. That's obviously what they're going for. They're not like two country guys, right? They're specifically two country bros, right? They're these guys that like wear tight jeans, you know what I'm saying? And are willing to fight you at any given moment, drink heavily, party, and bang broads, right? They're like frat boys from the country, right? And this gimmick is captured perfectly because they're young guys who are not obese, right? This article compares them to, it says they're a less charismatic version of Heavy Machinery. Heavy Machinery wasn't this at all. Heavy Machinery wasn't supposed to be two country guys. It was supposed to be two big fat fucks who wrestle, you know, and are blue collar, quote unquote. This is not a blue collar gimmick. This is a country bros gimmick, right? The point here is this. They come out, Trick Williams says some bullshit to them, right? And one of them, the one that I like the most, the one who seems to be more natural, because one of them is pretty bad. I don't know which one's which yet, so more on that later. But one of them says, the good one, he says, hey, other guy, you know, I promised myself this morning that the first man that looks at me crooked, I'm going to pop him in the mouth. So then he goes and attacks Trick Williams, beats the shit out of him. It was great, right? First of all, that's what makes them different. They're not this weird tag team of dancing retards who are fat. They're basically they're basically the same thing as FTR, except instead of like two 5'8" guys, it's two guys who look big and who are strong and who might actually have a future, right? Like they're two guys, like I'm not gonna sit here and say they're handsome guys or anything like that, but they're young and they're going for that like country boy type thing, right? Like country girls would probably like these guys, right? They're not gonna like fucking Dash Dawson and Dash Wheeler, whatever the fuck their names are, right? So the reason why these guys are great and different from Heavy Machinery is, first of all, they're no nonsense. Like, they don't just say, like, just fists, no flips. The guy pretty much said, first guy to look at me the wrong way, I'm popping him one. So that's exactly what he did, you know? He followed through with his threat. The less charismatic Heavy Machinery is not charismatic. Fucking Tucker is one of the worst wrestlers of all time. Tucker is on the same level as Angelo Dawkins, right? And Otis, who is just a fat guy who dances, look at him now. Exactly, fucks. Next up, we have the NXT Women's Tag Team Championship. Zoe Stark and Io Shirai versus Toxic Attraction. Toxic Attraction is not good. They're not an entertaining tag team. I don't like them. They're boring. They bore me to death. I don't care if the match was good. The match was boring to your boy. Basically, long story short, fucking Io Shirai does a moonsault, and that's the end of that. It wasn't great. Then we had Boa versus Andre Chase. Andre Chase is another guy who sucks ass. Andre Chase is basically Drew Gulak. Like, just fire this guy right now, or fire Drew Gulak as well, because there's no need for this to even be experimented upon. This guy will never make it with his gimmick. There is a 0 chance that this guy will make it with like a "I'm smarter than you" intellectual gimmick, because we've had that done 1,000 times. Not one person has made it, right? And some of them have been very over. And this guy is like the worst of all those things. There's nothing about this guy that rings anything but jobber. Like, I can't believe this guy was signed. He's not big. He's not a handsome guy. He's not like, he doesn't have any kind of look. He's not especially charismatic. You know, he doesn't have anything going for him. Like, there's nothing about this guy that's interesting. So I'm glad that Boa won. Boa won after the Chinese girl, whatever the fuck her name is, the face paint one, spewed smoke into Andre Chase's face. He turned around, reverse DDT by Boa. That was the end of that. It wasn't a good, it wasn't a good in-ring segment. It wasn't a good match. Boa will never make it. Whatever the one, Xia Li is not interesting. Like, nothing happened. The fact that she's now surrounded by 2 other Chinese people, one of which is supposed to be like this mythical beast, or whatever the fuck she is, right? This witch, doesn't make her any more interesting. The witch is not interesting, right? The witch character, whatever the fuck she is, a demon, is not interesting. It's boring. Next up, we have Roderick Strong and Grayson Waller in a continued attempt to push the Diamond Mine, which sucks ass. The only thing good about the Diamond Mine is the Creed brothers. If I were WWE, or whoever's in charge, I would fast track the moment when they turn on the Japanese guy and Roderick Strong, who are jobbers. Nobody cares about Roderick Strong. Roderick Strong has never drawn a dime in his life. Like, he's never sold a ticket. So, it is what it is. The match was exactly what you would expect. This Grayson Waller guy also needs to be released immediately. You see, I have no pity and I have no mercy just because it's NXT 2.0. Grayson Waller is a mix of Dexter Lumis and Justin Gabriel. He's basically Justin Gabriel. He's like this Australian guy, wherever the fuck he is from, like New Zealand maybe, or whatever. He's basically this English-speaking Anglophone type guy that's clearly not American or Canadian or British, right? And he likes to be a daredevil. He likes surfing and bungee jumping. Who cares? That's not a character. That's boring. That Justin Gabriel, who was over at a certain point because of the Nexus, never got anything out of it. So why the hell are they giving this guy this gimmick? It's never going to work, you know? And he has hair like Dexter Lumis. By the way, I don't know why Dexter Lumis is being treated like a comedy jobber. I don't like this. Dexter Lumis, like, he shouldn't be a comedy jobber. He should be a guy who's serious and who destroys people. But it is what it is. Roderick Strong wins with a high knee. Nobody cares, motherfucks. They keep talking about the Index honeymoon. It wasn't good. It was just goofy. It's the kind of shit that should lead to a mass firing of everyone involved except for Dexter Lumis. Then we had a thing called Lashing Out with Lash Legend, who apparently was a former basketball player. This girl's interesting. I don't know how I feel about her. I'm going to need to see her standing up next to some other women to see how tall she is. Because if she's like a giant, then that could be cool. If she's not, there's nothing special here. She had like a shitty talk show segment, which pretty much summarized everything that happened. She didn't do anything. She didn't advance the plot or anything. She just summarized everything that happened. It was a waste of time. What else do we have? Kyle O'Reilly versus Ridge Holland. This was really dumb. O'Reilly won for some reason. They attacked him after the match. Von Wagner, who looks like Great Khali but white, came out and saved them. This was not good. And the reason why it wasn't good is because Kyle O'Reilly should be getting destroyed by Ridge Holland. Kyle O'Reilly should be getting destroyed by Ridge Holland and released, motherfucks. It is a waste of time. Every penny spent on Kyle O'Reilly has been a waste. You'll never see a return on the investment that is Kyle O'Reilly. Ridge Holland, on the other hand, is awesome. So Ridge Holland should be destroying Kyle O'Reilly. Enough of this, like, oh, you know, Ridge Holland didn't get destroyed, so he's protected. No, he's not protected, motherfucks. I don't know where people got this idea that, like, if you lose but you don't lose clean, you're protected. You're not protected. Who gives a shit? You can lose dirty every time and you still suck. You know, there's a big difference between someone who wins and someone who loses for any reason. Because there's people that are able to overcome, like, flukes and things like that. So, whatever. The fact that Von Wagner is being teamed up with Kyle O'Reilly, I don't know how I feel about that. I mean, to be honest, I don't care because Kyle O'Reilly to me is always going to be a tag team jobber. He's never going to be anything. And then finally, we had the main event. Raquel Gonzalez versus Frankie Monet. I don't know what it is about Frankie Monet, but she just looks odd. Like, I don't know how to explain it. Like, I think it's her haircut. It makes her head look like a block almost because it highlights, you know, because like her hair is cut in the form of like a block on one side. I don't like her. I don't see anything special. I didn't watch her in TNA when she was Taya Valkyrie or whatever. I don't see anything special here. Like, you might as well have put her and made her Elektra Lopez and made the other one Frankie Monet because there's no discernible character between either one. What the hell is Frankie Monet? She's just a broad. Anyways, Raquel Gonzalez wins. Who cares? It doesn't matter. I don't really care very much about Raquel Gonzalez. I don't care about Kaylee Ray. Raquel Gonzalez to me is just, she's already a missed opportunity. You know, this girl could be a star if you push her correctly. If you make her, I'm happy to be here and I can't believe this opportunity character, then it's not going to be good. So for me, the best part of the night, unfortunately, it wasn't a good night. The best part of the night had to be the tag team, the MSK segment, even though I thought it was kind of lacking. It was better than everything else. Every match was a women's match, except for like, I think there was like the Grayson Waller match and the Oni Lorcan match. So enough said. I mean, this was like a throwaway episode, so I can't judge NXT 2.0 as a result of this. But I will say that I am afraid that things are going the wrong direction. And the direction that I'm speaking of is the direction of jobbers and dumb shit happening, right? It's very important for everyone to understand that there's cool people in this world and there's people that aren't cool. And I think, honestly, that is the difference between, like, most wrestling fans being not cool and a few people that really get it, you know? Like Vince McMahon is a cool guy. Vince McMahon never had problems getting laid when he was growing up, motherfucks. You know what I'm saying? But these nerds, you know, these fucking geeks want to put their opinion in there. Like, they want to see Kyle O'Reilly, right? Because they, like, and you know what? For a while, I used to think it was like, oh, Kyle O'Reilly reminds them of themselves. Kevin Owens reminds them of themselves. No, I think what it is that they don't understand what being cool is. Like, they don't understand what cool is. They literally don't get it, you know? And this is something that's a big problem with the smarts, but it's equally a big problem with the anti-smarts, as I've pointed out many, many times about Karrion Kross. People seem to like this guy. I mean, I know. Some people like him, and they just like him because they like him. Whatever the case may be, you know? But a lot of them, I think they think that he's what is supposed to be cool, and they have no guidance. Like, they've never been cool themselves. So they're like, oh, like, he's cool, I like him, and they have no reason to like him, you know? Like, there's some people that like him for a good reason, and I get it, you know? Like, he has certain likable qualities. But then there's people that just blow smoke up his ass because they never understood what being cool was like. All they know is the life of a geek. So, like, for them to identify something as cool is like a guess. You know, it's just like, it's like throwing a dart on a dartboard. And they're like, I hope I hit a bullseye with this. And a lot of people have landed on the bullseye of people like fucking Karrion Kross. Keith Lee's another one. You know what I mean? I like Keith Lee, but I'm not sitting here thinking like, oh, Keith Lee should beat Brock Lesnar. Like, yes, compared to other people, he's better than most of them. But Keith Lee is still a jobber. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. Keith Lee, his ceiling should be like, he might be the next like big boss man. That should be his ceiling. You know, he's never going to be the next Mark Henry. He's not good enough to be the next Mark Henry. Let's be honest. You know, all of a sudden people are like, oh, Keith Lee has unparalleled charisma. No, he doesn't, motherfuckers. No, he doesn't. Coming out and talking like this is not a display of charisma. That's not charisma. That's called being a shitty promo delivery guy. It's as simple as that. So that's the problem with it, fucks. I hope that NXT 2.0 does not fall down that hole. That's the thing that I'm worried about. Because eventually, some writer might think that Von Wagner is the coolest thing ever. And for all you know, Von Wagner gets pushed for a while. Then he ends up on Raw being like, I don't know, billed as like, I don't know, Von the Wildcat Wagner. And he can go team with Keith Bearcat Lee as Wildcat and Bearcat Connection. You know what I'm saying? Two jobbers, right? That's exactly where Keith Lee is headed. Keith Lee is headed out the door, motherfucks. Karrion Kross headed out the door. Now, as long as someone is employed in WWE, there is always a chance you could be the next Drew McIntyre. For a while, Drew McIntyre was in the same situation as Keith Lee and Karrion Kross. And then they decided to pull the trigger on him and made him that. Same thing with Lashley. The only difference, of course, is look at Lashley and Drew McIntyre, and then look at Keith Lee and Karrion Kross. And you'll be able to realize real quick why Lashley and Drew McIntyre got another chance. Right? They're more like Corbin. They're like, Keith Lee might be the next Corbin, you know what I'm saying? Like, Karrion Kross might be the next Corbin, the next Jinder Mahal, except without a title reign. That's where these guys are headed, you know? So, And the reason for that is because WWE, the main roster people, understand what it is and it's not cool. You know, they're not always right, and I don't always agree with them, but generally speaking, they get it. Like they get, for example, like Roman Reigns is cool. You look at Roman Reigns and you're like, this is cool. You know, he's just this badass guy. He's badass. And he comes out there, punches people in the face, and then spears them and wins matches. You know what I'm saying? That's cool. Coming out and saying TikTok is not cool. That's fucking lame. You know, coming out there and saying, I am Keith Lee and my time has come. Like, that's not cool. That's lame, motherfucks. That's lame. Keith Lee is like fucking geek who has just happened to go to the gym a couple of times, gained some weight, became strong, and likes wrestling. He's a geek. He might be a really nice guy. Same thing with Karrion Kross, but they're geeks. They're not fucking cool people. Like, look at The Rock. There's a promo with The Rock burying Al Snow with Mick Foley, right? And you can just tell, you're like, The Rock is just cool. He's just a cool dude. This is a guy that everyone always liked growing up because he has charisma. He has an actual personality, right? People like Karrion Kross and Keith Lee, nobody liked these guys in elementary school. They were the weird kids probably, you know? And for some reason, people don't understand how important that is. You look at Hulk Hogan, you look at Ric Flair, Triple H, all these Shawn Michaels motherfucks. Like, these guys were always cool. Stone Cold, King Booker motherfuckers. These are people that were always cool. They were probably the most popular person in their neighborhood. And therefore, they became popular wrestlers. You can't take the nerd of the neighborhood, Xavier Woods, and Big E, and Kofi Kingston, and fucking Buddy Murphy, and these jabrones, and then be like, we're going to pretend that these nerds are actually the cool kids. Like, a lot of idiots are going to clap along, New Day's cool, you know? But, like, real people that are cool, the ones that actually drive, the ones that actually have grown up, and for some reason still watch wrestling, which might be a problem, of course, but these people who might actually buy a t-shirt instead of just going on dirt sheets and talking about Dave Meltzer, these people are not going to think New Day's cool, you know? They might think their kids might think New Day's cool, and they're not going to buy for my kids. But a lot of people don't get it, and this is one big problem that can be elucidated, honestly, by the existence of John Cena. John Cena personifies everything I've just said. John Cena is a cool guy. Like, people can deny it all they want. That Cena's not cool. Sami Zayn is cool. No, motherfuckers. Cena is cool. Sami Zayn isn't. And if you don't agree with that, if you don't realize that, you've missed the point. You're one of the dorks that I've been talking about, unfortunately. It's not too late for you. You can change it up. Cena is a cool guy. You want to go hang out with Cena. You don't want to go hang out with Adam Cole and Kyle O'Reilly. You don't. You want to avoid them. You want to bully them. You want to, like, make fun of them. That's the reaction that they elicit from people. Not John Cena, though, motherfucks. So, as long as NXT 2.0 sticks to this and cultivates people like Braun Breaker, who are on the edge, motherfucks, they're on the edge. Sometimes Braun Breaker talks, and I'm like, this guy's a fucking goofball. Stop it, you know? They need to cultivate him, make him more Scott Steiner, less Sami Zayn. More Scott Steiner, less Brian Cage. Brian Cage, not cool. Scott Steiner, cool. Like, I bet you, when they were 18, like, if you took 18-year-old Scott Steiner and 18-year-old Brian Cage, I bet you Steiner was bigger, stronger, more charismatic, more confident, right? Eventually, Brian Cage may have surpassed him in size, but I bet you, I have a sneaking suspicion that Brian Cage is one of those people that was, like, probably grew up, I don't want to say bully because he's huge, but I have a feeling that he wasn't always that big, right? You can tell Scott Steiner was always a jock. He was always a guy that's whooping that ass. And I'm not talking, like, I'm not this, like, super athlete myself, motherfucks. I mean, like, I boxed in college, but that's about it. Like, I wasn't, like, in any sports in high school. I mean, like, I have some geek tendencies, too. I'm not saying it's, like, it's dispositive. But I can tell what cool is and what cool isn't. Because that's one thing that I fucking am. That's cool, motherfuckers. With that being said, take care of yourselves and go fuck